of folks online, joining us to go backstage with this year's artist in residence, Raanan Gabriel, who will share with us about some of his work. You've seen the work that he's done in designing our logo for the High Holy Days, the Havaya name in English and Hebrew. Good afternoon, gentlemen. Welcome. I'm bowing to your bowingness. So we're going to hear from Raanan in a moment, who's presented a presentation, I think your first time, about one of his most exceptional projects. I just want to do a shout out to Shakti's parents. When we celebrated the Bar Mitzvah of lovely Shakti, and I went to your home in the Upper West Side, I saw a poster on the wall. I was like, what is that piece of weird art? It looks fantastic. And they're like, oh, that's our friend Raanan. And so thank you for making the introduction. Raanan has been really a huge inspiration and a new friend, and we're excited to hear from you. So I think it's about a half hour, and then we'll take some time for Q&A. And then after, you can shortly stretch, and then we're very honored to have our beloved leaders from the New York Center for Contemplative Care, who will lead us into an ever-present Zen Jew joy meditation, as you know well. Hello, senseis. Thank you for being here. Raanan, thank you for being here. Take it away.
Thank you. Can you darken a little bit here also? Also, a little bit more for the holiness. Thank you. Let's start. B. ראשית. אלוהים. ברא. את השמיים ואת הארץ. הארץ הייתה. תוהו. ובואו. וחושך. על פני תהום. ו... רוח אלוהים. מרחפת. על פני המים. ויאמר אלוהים יהי אור. And this is where I stop, and I'll ask for your forgiveness because I'm going to switch to my presenter notes, which was not sync on my computer. So you'll have to forgive me for a second. So let's start from the beginning. With your permission, I will run a little bit faster, but it's a good opportunity to look at it again. Each panel is a word. Let's start. ראשית. אלוהים ברא את השמיים ואת הארץ הארץ הייתה תוהו ובוהו. וחושך. על פני תהום. ורוח אלוהים מרחפת על פני המים. ויאמר אלוהים יהי אור. The first words of creation in the original Hebrew are בראשית ברא אלוהים את השמיים ואת הארץ. In the beginning, God created heaven and earth. According to Rabbi Dov Baher, the Maggid of Mezerich and successor to the Baal Shem Tov, these words are easily misunderstood as suggesting that heaven and earth were God's first creations. However, the rabbi explained, that is not the case. What God created first was not heaven and earth, but rather et. Et, the immediately preceding monosyllable, a particle, pointing to a direct object, presumably to follow. Just as in God's index finger in Michelangelo's famous fresco in the Sistine Chapel, or a magic wand that conjures something out of absolutely nothing. Pure arrow of creation, et, was created even before heaven and earth. Significantly, the rabbi continued, this particle consists of two letters, Aleph and Tav, the first and last letters of the Hebrew alphabet, which means that it was, in fact, the alphabet itself that God created before anything else, and that the letters of the alphabet constitute the primordial and essential building blocks, the DNA of creation. There is a unique story in the Kabbalah, one that tells how God, the Creator, summoned the 22 Hebrew letters of the alphabet and asked them to present their argument for who should be the first letter to begin the creation of the cosmos. Nun was sure it would get it, because it is the first letter in the word neshama, means soul. And the first in Nisim means miracles. The Yud is related to the word Yad, means hand. And the shape of the Yud has been linked to the eye of God. So the hand of God and the eye of God are two concepts that are powerful in Jewish thought. And the letter Yud indicates both. Here's a fun fact. The good luck symbol used all over the Middle East, known as Hamsa, a stylized hand, often has a single eye placed in the center of it, the eye of God within the hand of God. Tzaddik, because of tzaddik, it means righteous. And tzedakah, which is the highest form of giving in Judaism. So the story goes on and on, while all 22 letters present their arguments, except Aleph, the only letter that had not come forward. It was quiet and humble, not competitive like the others. So God declared, Aleph will start the 10 Commandments because it is so modest. And as we all recall, Anochi Adonai Elohecha. But it was Bet who got the honor. God's reasons were because Bet is the first letter in the word bracha, means blessing. It is also Bait, home, and the building with a solid structure. It has only one entrance, 3 walls, and a little addition on the baseline for extra support. Bet keeps the cosmos safe from falling below the base to the underworld, not dissolving into space above the horizon, and not going back along its vertical line. Its shape simply communicates that there is only progress and forward movement. So, the understanding that any given letter is simply a vessel carrying meaning and purpose is one of the fundamental truths of my visual exploration. My research started a while ago as a young graphic designer in Israel. I had just finished my major and created my first and only catalog of typefaces. I called it, surprisingly, lab fonts. Well, what can I say? Each figure in the catalog presents a typeface, a font. A font with more than one style called a family, and this is Teco family. Here is Tishrei family. Etgar family. Two different fonts. On the left, Yohezer. On the right, Elizov. And finally, Kotz. Later, in my long research, once I relocated to New York, I naturally found myself challenging the Latin alphabet. I started with the design of a vertical typeface. It forced me to think about how to build a font, a system, that can be read vertically. I created a video to present the typeface. It records a couple, French and Chinese, naming traditional Chinese and French dishes with their native accents. Let's watch it.
Wasabi. 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 wasabi,
wasabi,
yakitori,
yakitori,
soba,
soba, choucroute,
unagi,
cassoulet,
choucrouté,
coq au vin,
cassoulet,
yakitori,
kokoban,
soba,
quiche lait, quiche lait, quiche lait, quiche Lorraine.
アジア
The famous philosopher Jacques Derrida used to call letters marks. He once wrote, "The mark is not anthropological. It doesn't relate to humankind. It is prelinguistic, at a stage before the development of language. It is the possibility of language. The mark doesn't need language, and therefore no need of us." I mark. I mark. We are so used to this idea, to the idea of this mark, that it becomes a symbol. And another one. In 2004, while walking the streets of Tel Aviv with my friend, a young and promising author at the time, we spoke passionately of the idea that words are versatile beings, have no discipline, and above all, don't look at the way they sound. Think of Tibetan monks who engrave mantras on their door frame, full-body tattoos, priests in monasteries who paint initials as a window onto the divinity, pixels, digital deconstructions, and so much more. Words have no limits, but so much power. Whatever we may believe about language, for instance, that its limits are the limit of our world, as a young philosopher named Ludwig Wittgenstein said, or that it is the most comprehensive and capacious among various semiotic systems, as the French scholar Émile Benevist said, there is no creation without it. There is and cannot be creation without language, without signs. What distinguished creation from sheer being is meaning. Creation is meaningful sign, the sign of conscious intent. Many artists paint and draw the story of creation, Genesis, usually in a figurative style and with hyper-realistic expressions. Their interpretations address their desire to see with their own eyes what was there in the beginning. My attempt shows the story as it happened, word for word, letter for letter, for the first time. Thank you very much. תודה רבה. And shukran. I've been asked to do like Q&A, so if you have any question, I'll be happy to answer. I'll even sit. Look less intimidating. If there are no questions, I will go. Please.
Your work is so intriguing and your mystical treatment of the visual language of God. And I'm wondering, in your artist career, as some of your work, you're doing commercial design, right? You're designing letters. And I'm wondering if you could talk about this residency and how it let you go deep into the more mystical, spiritual connection to the letter in juxtaposition with what you have to do normally as an artist to survive.
Well, it's a simple question with a deep answer.
Guys, can we have a handheld, please? And a little more light on the house? Thank you. Meanwhile, you can handle that one.
Tell us the question so we can understand the answer. Repeat the question. Away for the mic.
Away from this.
I'm going to wait for the microphone.
Okay. I repeat the question. Oh, you need it. I think you need it. The question was, how do I, correct me if I'm wrong, how do I actually walk in these like two worlds? One of them is like immersing myself deeply into the meaning and the purpose of what letters and words represent, while I have the other cycle, which is more like the commercial side of things. I'm serving a purpose, I'm serving a product, a client, a need, a problem to solve. Well, I think everything is connected. Everything has inspired me. So one of the beauties of, I think for me, with my approach, is that every project required some level of going in, going deeper, to immerse myself. So whether it's a client, whether it's a product, whether it's like a menu for a restaurant or it's a logo for an high-tech firm, I still need to go the distance. I still need to go deeper into the understanding of what is it that they represent. What is it, forgive me, that they want to say to the world. And I believe that the written text and what we read in the Bible does the same thing. It asks us. It challenges us. And to go deeper into the word, to understand the meaning of it, is not just by knowing what it means, like in a dictionary, but it's to go and to understand what were the choice of letters in order to create this mark, this word that represent emotions and characteristics. So the answer for me is simple. It's the same process.
I would like to challenge that a little more, though. It is the same process, but this residency.
Mike is coming.
We'll get there.
Thank you. Hello.
Hi.
I love.
What's your name?
My name is Branda Miller.
Nice to meet you, Brenda.
Nice meeting you, and I love your work.
Thank you very much.
But if you could talk a little further, I've worked for the mass media, and I am aware that I use my art kind of as a hoe to sell, right? In the advanced stages of capitalism.
Oh yeah.
And so you've been asked to use your art for a residency to go deep into the spiritual, right? And so how has this residency been an opportunity for you
So the truth is that this work was done before. That's an answer. But what I experienced while preparing this presentation, and I think that was the gift of the residency, if you like, to allow me to put together the spiritual aspect, or just to take it, to disconnect it from any commercial aspect. Stop thinking about whether I need to sell it. It's not about selling it. It's about the joy of experiencing it. It's about ever-presence. It's about God.
Thank you for giving us the ever-presence logo. It's beautiful.
So Raanan, I know there's some questions up there, but I want to repeat this question from another angle. I don't know if we can get the Havaya Ever-Presence logo up there on the screen, because guys, I think you're looking at another thing, but many of you have seen it, and you'll see it again later. When you and I met many months ago, and we had a conversation about our idea of rebranding God, and we ran through the concept of Havaya, ever-presence, and you looked at me like I was crazy.
Still am.
Still am.
Yeah.
And then you sent a draft, another one. We sat in your studio in Woodstock. So I think for people here, I think most of us have been immersed in this concept of reconceptualizing the divine through language. You're doing it through visual language.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can share anything with us about what went through your process from when we first talked into looking at the divine name in Hebrew, in English, like some of the nuggets or some of the discoveries that you made about, really not in a commercial way, but in a artistic, spiritual way, redesigning this logo that we all really love. Any thoughts on that?
Of course. Not a lot. Well, I'll be completely honest. Sometimes I don't know the answer. That's the truth. Sometimes you just listen to your intuition, who leads, takes you to where it takes you. And I think I have a lot of experience, I can say, today. Like 3 decades of walking in this realm. And I realized that this oomph, this drag towards a direction, works. Rabbi Amichai likes it, and many others in the past. So this is one thing that I can actually share with you. The second thing that I realized throughout my career is, since we are visual beings, we hear, we smell, we touch, but we see. The first thing that we do is we see. And there are two interesting things about language, text, the written language. I think you notice it. You drive with your car, you see a sign. You cannot not read it. You just read it. And in this fraction of a moment, and this is the first thing that, it's like a virus. Once you learn how to read, you read. That's it. So if I had a T-shirt now written WTF, you would all read it, right? So this is one thing. The second thing is this fraction of a moment there when you read this word, before you even start to think with yourself what it resonates within yourself, there's this a little bit of space, this fraction of a moment that I can inject visuals. I can convey a message. I can do it Nike, I can do it Apple, I can do it ever-presence. Depends on the word. And this is where I can actually manipulate this word, this line of text, to bring an addition, something in addition, something that will excite you, something will make you laugh. If it's a word that I want you to laugh at it. And I think this moment, this is where I dance. This is the place that I like the most. I hope it answers. There was a question up there?
I have 2 questions.
Yes.
So I'll just ask them both, and you can answer them
I can't hear you.
I have two questions, and answer them in whatever order you want. They're not related to each other. When you started talking about the Aleph and the Bet, and you talked about the space and the blocks of the, in the Bet, the wall and the balance, and it doesn't go too high. Have you analyzed every single letter in the Hebrew alphabet and even in the English alphabet? I mean, it's fascinating to listen to how you, decide what shape and what limitations each letter has. So I'm curious if you've done that, and if you want to share more about that, because it's interesting. And the second question is, I think I heard you say that you started working on the word God before Amichai suggested you work on this. And so I'm curious what inspired you to take on a word like God and play with it in the first place?
So the first answer for your first question is yes. As for the second one, it wasn't, well, you touched a really interesting point, because the first word that I worked on when I started to work on the book of Genesis, which was for me, it was the natural place to go, because I looked for text, for something that I can work with, that doesn't have any rights, that is deep enough, conveys something that is amazing, and also to challenge the concept that I had. So I had to choose something, and I think it was there, just waiting for me. But the first word that I started to work with was God. And what I thought back then was that if I will manage to really solve it like visually, and express the name of God visually in a good way that will actually represent Him, then I think it will mark the beginning of a journey that I can be quite sure that it can be solved. It might take time, but it can be solved. And I think the solution, the understanding that I found with this word, and I think you saw the solution that I presented, allowed me to take it further. And I started to work on the other words of the story.
Raanan, thank you for taking us backstage into what we hope will
Thank
be
you. Thank you for listening.
a longer
Thank you for
journey.
being here.
I hope we will have more opportunities to co-create beautiful design together with new words and old concepts. For now, we're going to turn the lights up a little bit. We're going to take a 5-minute break, and then we're very honored to go into ever-present space with our guided meditation by our friends from the Zen Center. So stay where you are. If you need a restroom, breathe. Thank you, my dear brothers Koshin and Chodo, for being here with us. And Raanan, thank you again.